She didn't scream it. She didn't whisper it. She said it like it was a line she'd rehearsed in the mirror. I stood there with one hand midair, hovering over the curve of her shoulder, and in that moment, I realized I hadn't touched my wife in 47 days. Not accidentally brushing fingers, not a knee against hers on the couch, not even a sleepy, half-aware hug in the dark. Nothing. 47 days. She was wearing the navy hoodie I bought her last Christmas. Her hair was wet. There was a smell of someone else's cologne on her. It wasn't mine. I took a step back, not because I was angry, but because I suddenly felt like I was trespassing, like I'd walked into a stranger's house by mistake. The walls were still the same beige, the kitchen tiles still chipped, the living room still had the same oil stain from when I spilled pad thai 3 years ago, but the woman in front of me? No, this wasn't the same person who once fell asleep in my lap watching nature documentaries. She turned around like nothing had happened and opened the fridge. "We're out of oat milk. Can you grab some tomorrow?" I didn't respond, because that's when I noticed her phone screen light up on the counter, a message preview. "Still thinking about this morning. You're unreal." No name, just a heart emoji. She didn't see me read it. She didn't even notice I was still standing there. I walked out the front door without saying anything. Just walked past the mailbox I painted for her birthday, past the car she told me not to park too close to the hedge. I walked until my legs burned and my throat tightened. That night, I slept in the guest room. She didn't ask why. The next morning, she hummed in the kitchen. Actually hummed. A pop song. Cheerful. I sat on the edge of the guest bed listening, wondering if I dreamt the night before. But then, I heard her phone vibrate. Not once, not twice, but 5 times. I counted. She was laughing on the call by the 3rd ring. Quietly, but laughing. Not like when we used to laugh over dumb rom-coms or our failed attempt at salsa dancing. This laugh was different. Careless, like someone had reached in and twisted something sacred. And that's when it stopped being about jealousy. It became about truth. I didn't confront her. That would have made me just another obstacle in her day. Instead, I started documenting. I saved screenshots, took photos of the screen when her phone lit up, synced her calendar to my tablet when she wasn't looking. I didn't know what I was looking for yet, but I knew I needed proof. Not for the courts, not even for friends. I needed myself to believe that I wasn't crazy. The next Friday, she told me she was going to an art class downtown. Said it was a 3-hour workshop on watercolor technique. I offered to drive her. She smiled too sweetly and said, "No need, babe. You'd be bored out of your mind." Babe. A word she hadn't used on me in months. It landed like acid. So I followed her. I waited 30 minutes after she left, then took my car, kept a safe distance, tracked her down through traffic until she pulled into the side parking lot of a boutique hotel called the White Fern. I watched from across the street as she got out. She wasn't carrying paint supplies. She was carrying lingerie. I recognized the little red bag from the boutique she used to avoid, because it was too flashy. A man in a charcoal blazer opened the door for her before she could even knock. He didn't look like someone she'd met last week. He looked like someone who already knew the color of her bedroom walls. I didn't go in. I didn't make a scene. I just took the photo. One single photo of them together at the door, her smiling like she hadn't smiled at me in 2 years. That image would stay burned in my skull, but also saved to 3 cloud accounts, just in case I ever doubted my memory or needed to prove I wasn't the insane one. When she came home later that night, her hair still damp, she looked at me sitting at the dining table like I was a misplaced decoration. "How was your class?" I asked without raising my voice. "It was expressive," she said, putting her phone down carefully. "We painted roses." I looked her straight in the eyes and replied, "Funny, you came back without your paintbrush." For a second, I thought her expression cracked.
Just a second." Then she smirked and turned away and said, "You're reading into things again." I didn't respond. I simply stood up, grabbed my jacket, and walked out. Not forever, just long enough to make her think maybe I was done trying. From that night on, I stopped asking her questions I already knew the answers to. If she said she was meeting friends, I checked her location history later. If she claimed she had a late meeting, I matched the time with her credit card charges. I didn't just catch lies, I collected them. Her phone became my best source. She never changed her password, probably because she thought I'd stopped caring. I backed up every conversation with him. Screenshots of flirty texts, hotel confirmations, little miss you already notes. Sometimes the worst proof wasn't sexual at all, but the everyday tenderness she used to reserve for me. In one thread, he sent, "Don't forget to wear that blue dress, the one that makes you look like trouble." She replied, "Already thinking about you undoing it." I read that one 10 times. Not because I needed to, because I wanted the hurt to stick. I didn't want to forgive her too soon. A month passed like this. I had photos, messages, bank statements, enough evidence to ruin her in court. But the truth was, court wasn't my main target. I wanted her to know, in the most undeniable way, that I had seen everything, and that I wasn't the pathetic man she thought I was. That's when I started the countdown. I marked a date on my phone's calendar with a simple check. She had no idea what it meant. To her, it was just another month of lying. To me, it was the day she'd lose everything she thought was hers. At night, I'd lie in the guest bed and listen to her laughing in the other room on the phone with him. The sound stopped hurting after a while. It became fuel. The date on my calendar came faster than I expected. By then, I had everything I needed neatly organized in a private folder, labeled, time-stamped, impossible to refute. That morning, she breezed into the kitchen in a silk blouse I'd never seen before. Her perfume was stronger than usual, and I could tell she was already half somewhere else. "Going out?" I asked, casually. "Lunch with a client," she said, without looking at me. I smiled. "Take your time. You deserve it." She didn't notice the manila envelope in my briefcase as I left 15 minutes later. She didn't know I was on my way to see her parents. Her father had always been kind to me. Her mother, polite but distant. I arrived with coffee and pastries like it was a casual visit. Then, over the kitchen table, I slid the envelope toward them. Inside, printed screenshots of her texts with him, photos of her entering and leaving the White Fern, credit card statements for dinners, hotel stays, and lingerie purchases. I didn't say a word while they looked through it. Her mother's hand went to her mouth. Her father's jaw clenched. "I thought you should see this before I file," I finally said. There was no yelling, no dramatics, just a cold, heavy silence that told me the damage was permanent. That evening, I came home to find her pacing in the living room, phone in hand, face pale. "You went to my parents?" she hissed. I set my keys down. "I told you, I'm done begging. Now I'm just informing." For the first time in months, she didn't have a clever retort. She just stood there, breathing hard, as if she finally realized I'd stopped playing the part of the man she could walk over. 2 days later, I served her the divorce papers. No warning, no conversation. She was still in her robe when the process server handed them over. "What the hell is this?" she demanded, waving the envelope. "An ending," I said, signed, dated, and filed. She tried to laugh it off at first, the way she always did when cornered. "You're being dramatic. We can work through this." I didn't even look up from the coffee I was pouring.
No. You could have worked through this. I'm already done. I'd consulted the best lawyer I could afford, given them every piece of evidence I'd gathered. In our state, infidelity mattered in court. It mattered a lot. The settlement terms were brutal for her. She'd lose the house, the car that was in my name, and half of the joint savings she thought she could claim. The lawyer said it was one of the cleanest cases they'd ever seen. When the reality hit her, she stopped trying to charm me. The anger came out in waves, accusations, insults, desperate bargaining. None of it touched me. I'd already buried the part of me that cared. The last night before she moved out, I found her sitting at the kitchen table, staring at her phone. She didn't look at me when she spoke. "He's not answering." I said nothing. "Did you tell him?" she asked, her voice shaking. I leaned against the doorway. No, but I imagine the hotel receipts were hard for his wife to ignore. Her head snapped up. The color drained from her face. I left her there, alone, with nothing but the echo of a life she thought she could keep both ways. Walking out the front door for the last time, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt free. And sometimes, that's better than winning.